So if we switch to women, what do women want? They want also physical appearance for short-term mating,
Yeah.
physical attractiveness. What else?
Well,
Some cues that represent physical attractiveness that maybe represent health.
well, this is your.
I'm learning a lot here.
Yeah. Well, but you're also asking a very interesting question about what is controversial within the evolutionary psychology field, right, and not totally resolved. So
that's why you're on the 6th edition of the book, and there could be a lot more editions coming.
Yeah, I revise it every 4 years or so because there's 4 years of new, interesting work, and so it deserves updating. But the traditional, I should say, answer to your question is that women go for good genes, cues to good genes in the short term, and cues to resources in the long term. And this has been a hypothesis that advocated. Now, I didn't come up with this one by Steve Gangestad, a former student of mine, Marty Hazelton, Randy Thornhill, and some other very smart players in the field. And what they used as markers of good genes are things like symmetrical features and masculine features. So strong jawline, high shoulder to hip ratio, other sorts of masculine features. But I started to doubt this explanation for what women want in the short term because of some other findings. So for women, a lot of short-term mating is not one-night stand mating. But rather it's affair mating. So if you ask the question, why do women have affairs? So let's restrict the question for the moment. My colleagues would argue, well, women have affairs because they're trying to get good genes from one guy while they're getting investment from the regular partner, the husband. Okay, but the problem is that when women have affairs, 70+% tend to fall in love with or become attached to their affair partner. Now,
sorry, what percentage? 70?
Yeah, 70.
Some large majority.
Yeah, 70% or more. In contrast to men, where it's more like 30% of men who have affairs fall in love with or become attached to their affair partner. So, but from a design perspective, an engineering perspective, if you will, that's a disastrous thing if you're just trying to get good genes. So you're trying to retain the investment of one guy while getting good genes surreptitiously from this, guy who presumably has more. Falling in love with them, becoming attached, that's not a feature you want.
Yeah, it's bad engineering.
Yeah, exactly. It's bad engineering. And so I developed an alternative hypothesis that I call the mate switching hypothesis, which is that affairs are one way in which women divest themselves of a cost-inflicting partner or a partner who things aren't working out well with, and it's a way to either transition back into the mating market or to trade up in the mating market. Anyway, so these are probably the two leading hypotheses about why women have affairs, and I am putting my money on the mate switching hypothesis. My esteemed colleagues are putting their money on the good genes hypothesis, but I think the evidence for the good genes hypothesis is starting to look shakier than initially.
Well, this is a heated debate. I mean, mate switching sounds like so from a game theory perspective, from an engineering perspective, it seems to make a lot more sense, unless you put a lot of value in lifelong, sort of in the long-term mating, some kind of value in the lifelong singular relationship, like monogamy.
Yeah.
And maybe we do psychologically. Maybe there's a big evolutionary advantage to that.
And we do, but we also know that divorce is, and breakups are also common and occur in all cultures. So,
so we're just not very good at this thing. Well, either we're not good at the mate selection, such that maybe we're not incorporating all the variables well, or we're just not good at monogamy, period, from an evolutionary perspective?
Well, I think that's
another debate.
No, that raises an interesting set of questions. So I think that, I mean, one issue is longevity. So, I mean, we didn't live to be 70, 80 years old in over 99% of human evolutionary history. And so we didn't necessarily evolve to be mated monogamously with one person for decades and decades and decades. But I also think that long-term pair bonding is a critical strategy, but mate switching is also a critical strategy. So if you have a mate, for example, who becomes cost-inflicting or becomes sufficiently debilitated, or who suffers an injury such that, like in hunter-gatherer societies where the mate can no longer hunt, can no longer provide resources for their kids and the woman, this becomes a problem. And so I think that we have adaptations to mate switch and to divest ourselves from some partners and trade up in the mating market under certain conditions.
So, okay.
And those conditions will differ for men and women.